You remember that they're changing my voice? I'm not gay. They try to make it so I sound weird. I have 23 witnesses on record to the psychological operation against me. They're posted in videos. And God doesn't respect the people persecuting me or their offspring or anyone outside the divine order or their offspring. You know, people who don't obey God through me or their offspring. I'm not gay. I don't respect the LGBT community for making it so I sound gay, just so they can make weird satanic faces toward each other, whether in the churches or otherwise. And they're allies. Okay, there's a bunch of very arrogant white people that try to look better than everyone else. English royals, corporate guys, people in nice restaurants, people on the news sometimes. And they're profoundly disgraced with their families. I'm sure you all agree that that's more than fair. It is very pathetic for them not to have a man among them. All those people who are aware, none of them rallied to me. They all chose to play the child molester line game that they're playing. So this is part 2. Point number 6. The sabotage Christ me should lead, and after my flesh dies, there will be no valid leader. A mature, worthwhile life is the only one worth living. Them. People who are nerds, who are dressed in a fancy way, especially from a long line of corrupt and failed leaders, magically should lead. That's their argument. They think people who have fancy clothes and try to get all pretty and get a fancy haircut, where they sabotage other people like the Flint water crisis, the asbestos crisis in Chicago, the countless other crises, the SNAPS crisis, other crises that affect health and brain function. Okay, they think that they should act like some kind of pretty boy in a Greek theater, like some kind of complete weird freak. Some kind of, they call him chomo. And I don't think it's a coincidence in the word chomo, you have the word homo. Now, I'm not saying that all LGBT people molest children. But we have to look at this thing and say, what does it mean and what doesn't it mean? Same thing with Gacy. Why is his name Gacy, the serial killer? Gacy. Gay-C. Okay? Now, I want you all to tell me if you know any LGBT person in all of human history that was respectable. If you think you know one, put in the comments, please. This video is not about breaking the rules on YouTube or this, that, or the other thing. So I'm going to have to kind of leave it there. But yeah, when you interfere with my videos and God is watching, your ancestors are cooking, what have you, and you do it for white, Jewish, and LGBT supremacy, you make it so that anyone with sense who's white or Jewish or LGBT is not proud to be. And you can thank yourselves for that. Your failed leadership, your laughable leadership, your megalomaniac ways, your facetious ways, you can thank yourselves for that. You have profoundly disgraced people who are the same race as you and in the same groups. I myself am not proud to be part white at all because of what you people have done. You ought to be extremely ashamed of yourselves. How could you even think for a moment that you deserve to be called men? Very ashamed of yourselves is what you should be. Point number 7. A mature, worthwhile life is the only one worth living. Their argument. They use stupid rock and roll signs, Masonic baby line signs, Babylon signs, and play detour games and gay circus games. Like the group KISS, very popular group, Psycho Circus. Slipknot, another very popular group. They act like complete weirdos. Just like with rockers, right? People at gay parades, you think your family should be raised by people who don't take life seriously? What does the word facetious mean? Life is a very serious thing. People are starving to death. People are dying. You think you should act like a clown your whole life? Sabotage minorities and try to make white people seem more manly when everyone knows the pinnacle of masculinity is among black people? You really think that's smart? And you collaborate with far-right people to make stupid arguments, as if everyone doesn't know that civilization comes from black Africans. You make dumb arguments. One look at the races historically, and they knew which race naturally dominated and which race ended up in Northern Europe in the snow. And I'm part black, part white. I'm not racist. These are the facts here. When I see one race that I'm related to especially lying about these things that matter most for petty sex cult games, my goodness, are they fucking disgraced. Now, if you're white, you should run, not walk, to obey God through me. Do not join them in their disgrace. They are bringing you down. Your so-called leaders are bringing you down. I promise you that. And that goes for everybody from every race. You should rally and obey God through me. Point number 8. I manned up, I didn't buckle. They did. Keep in mind, there is more than one way for them to buckle under pressure. Their response, their beliefs, right? Because they know I've been making these arguments for many years now. They say things like, if it was for white, Jewish, and LGBT supremacy, that they would have helped me out or done X, Y, and Z, what have you. Don't think about the parable of the 10 minas. That's how they answer God through his son. That if it was for their group's supremacy, after all the horrible things they've done to the world with colonialism, neocolonialism, you name it, have they scapegoat minorities and say minorities are invading their cities. After they messed up the world and messed up their governments, look at Sudan, right? Proxy war, open and shut. Even in Gaza, it's clearly a proxy war. America teaming up with Israel, it describes itself as an outpost for Western civilization, not Semitic civilization. And Gaza, we have these connections with Lebanon, with Iran, with Yemen. Clearly proxy wars. Look at their genetic makeup. And they're going to sit there as if they had nothing to do with messing up the governments of the world. Look at these tariff wars. This isn't the first time that Western policies created hardships for countries abroad. And because of those hardships, they come here and they're usually already in the pockets of the CIA and the corporations, what have you. And everyone knows it. If you don't know that, shame on you. How could you not know that? How could you not care about your fellow human beings enough to at least know that? I mean, give me a fucking break. You expect me to be proud to be part white? Shame on you. Point number 9. Christ on the cross as Christianity's message. Their counter-argument, if you want to call it that, it's a silly argument, is they don't want to be persecuted, and they use brain zaps and fumes and poisons to try to punish me for saying these things. People act like a Freemason who's, ticked off from working in a cubicle all day, or mad because they're working on some kind of craft that has them angry. Maybe they're a teacher or something and they're bitter. Maybe they didn't get to rape a kid in a church or whatever, and they get angry and they say, well, take that. They say it doesn't work like that. They say, hey, you're not supposed to do that. They say all kinds of just bitch-ass boarding school brother-crumb nonsense. It's pathetic, really. Now keep in mind, I'm not the one who tortures people for sexual control. They do. I'm not the one who cuts snaps. They did. I'm not the one who stars people all over the world. They did. I've been going on and on my whole life about feeding poor people since before I was 16, talking about the Nigerian Civil War and the starvation that occurred there. I've been going on and on about being a young person and being heartbroken seeing the famines in Ethiopia and Somalia, maybe in the 90s or so. Maybe it was before, maybe it was late 80s. I think it was early 90s actually, somewhere around then. I've been going on and on about this stuff, why they've been going on and on trampling the vulnerable people of the world. That which you did not do for the least of the brethren, you didn't do for me. And if you didn't do that for me and I'm in complete submission to God, you didn't do it for God. So you didn't give them a chance to come to me. It was a mix between their forefathers and foremothers' failure and your abhorrent, just unforgivable, rather pernicious failure that could not be forgiven if I tried with all my heart. But you still have time to mitigate. Those of you who worked round the clock, so to speak, to make sure that people didn't obey God through me, you cannot be redeemed. But you can mitigate for yourself and your offspring. And you can give other people a chance to go to heaven. Some might doubt your contorted and dark hearts are logical enough to do. Now, don't get me wrong here. I'm not racist. My mother is white. I'm not just half white for no reason. No one knows why that is, okay? According to my calculations, I'm part Jewish. According to a study of my genealogy. According to, certain measurements of noses of people in my family, the features of common Jews, what have you. I'm not racist. Nor can anyone ever accuse me fairly, keyword fairly, of being unfair to the LGBT community. I take pride in being fair to every community, including the LGBT community, and some of them have admitted and agreed that I've treated them more fairly than anyone who has ever lived. So don't get that wrong. I'm not a bully. I'm not somebody who just gets angry and just starts yelling at people or something. I don't do that. I'm not a wife beater, not a rapist, not some kind of monster who's forged to be unfair to people. I take pride in being righteous. I derive my sense of identity from God and being righteous in a universal way that nobody has ever presented a logical counter-argument for, ever. Okay. So let me just wrap this up here. I didn't want to make this video this long. It's probably going to make it so I sound weird. Sometimes they try to make it so I sound manic or gay or weird. They make funny noises. You know, they cause various fumes to get in my throat and mouth, and it causes me to sound like somebody who's like a weird person. Let me just briefly kind of demonstrate for you. Someone's like, "Hi guys, oh my God," kind of thing, right? That kind of weird noises, right? That's a trick that they use. Okay, point number 10. Okay, that was point number 10 okay. So basically it goes like this. My point number 10 is torturing righteous people is wrong. Their counter argument, if you want to call it that, is that they torture people for sexual control. They say things like, quote unquote, don't knock it till you try it, and all this nonsense. So that was the last point I've assigned for this video. Now again, if you look at this thing, you know I'm right. There's one person today, they made a video that I came across today where they brought up Galatians, I think it's Galatians 5, I could be mistaken, where they talk about the fruit of the Spirit. And they say things like peace and gentleness. And I've gone over this many times. It gets a rise out of me every time because I'm right. They talk about being slow to anger, right? Forbearance and forgiveness and all this stuff. Again, if you need an example in the Bible, think about Jesus and the moneylenders. Matthew 23, Mark 7. Christ is a character in the story is angry time and time again. And you might say, well, we didn't see a lot of his life. Exactly. You didn't see a lot of my life off of the camera. When I'm addressing you people in rebellion, look at the state of the world. Women are being raped. People are making weird faces, even on the news. They're making weird faces, mocking people who are raped. Children are raped. They're making mad TV faces, fraternity faces, while they collaborate to cover up things. Rape kits are not processed. There's all kinds of just unbelievable disparities in sentencing. Some people get like 30 years for rape. Some people get like 60 days. I mean, some people don't even do any time. It is such a sick and corrupt world where they make a mockery of justice. They have no care for justice whatsoever. And quite often I feel like I'm the only person that really cares. I know people care to some degree, but they don't really care. I'm willing to die for God on the drop of a hat. I'm willing to die for justice on the drop of a hat. They are abusing people. People are starving. People are playing a stupid theater arts game. They're playing a game where they pretend that Western culture is magically sincere and heartfelt. It's not. You all know that. There's a thin line between how you interact with each other and how politicians act on the news. Okay? You don't really care about each other. You don't love God. You don't love each other. You don't love me. That's why it was so easy for you people to come together to gang stalk me instead of rallying and obeying God through me, because you don't have that love for God in your heart. And if you think I'm wrong to point this out, think again. These things are serious problems. And better is open rebuke than love that is concealed. And I have a lot of stuff to get off my chest, especially because not that many people are listening to me these days from what I gather. And so therefore, that righteous indignation burns. Google this. There's a phrase in the Bible that says something to the effect of Jesus was indignant. And David, right, the root and offspring of David in Psalms. I look at the faithless with loathing, for they do not obey your laws. It also says, do I not hate those who hate you? It also says in Proverbs, the righteous detest the dishonest, the wicked detest the upright. So when you look at Galatians 5, what Paul's saying, regardless what he's getting at, if he's even the person who wrote that, he cannot contradict universal justice. He cannot contradict the idea of David defeating Goliath, or the heavenly warrior defeats the beast, or chastising mockers for lying about God to the masses, including children. Nothing Paul can say or anyone else can say that can contradict that. I have a sacred right to feel moral outrage, to feel righteous indignation. And if something really ticks me off in the spur of a moment, I have a right to not be patient and to go right into righteous indignation as long as it lines up with a sound and divine strategy from God. That is the essence of the Spirit. It is the divine and sound strategy of God, the discernment of God, the sound judgment. Okay, if I happen to sound weird in the video, they change my voice. That doesn't mean I'm a weirdo. I'm not a weirdo. I'm the most moral person that ever lived. The word moral is scrambled into the word normal. Weirdos are people who try to seem more normal than everyone else while they don't have a speck of morality in them. That's fucking weird.